Yes, now we're back and we're looking at empowering the youth in Nigeria. Investing in the next generation of African leaders is critical to ensuring the success of Africa's fledgling democracies and its economics. President Barack Obama launched the Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI, in 2010 as a signature initiative to support young Africans as they work to spur growth and prosperity and enhance peace and security across the continent. And I think he has subsequently now decided that will be Mandela Washington
Fellowship for Young African Leaders.
So that being the case, we thought it is worthwhile to speak with some of those who were out there attending that summit, that forum, that event, getting to fraternize with President Barack Obama, coming back with the swag.
And other young African leaders.
Other young Africans. So we've got in the studio on my right-hand side, Kemi Onabanjo, who was the delegate at the YALI Summit. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
And on the other side is Sola Akinyemi, who's also a delegate at that summit. Good morning. Okay, I'll start with you, Kemi. What did you, what qualified you for the YALI Fellowship?
All right, so I think it was a very competitive process, and it started sometime last year. There were call for applications, so all of us applied. There were about 50,000 applications from Africa.
50,000?
50,000. And only 500 people were selected, so I'm extremely humbled that I was one of the people who were selected. But then with every application, you had to write one burning problem in your country or your community that you are passionate about, and what would you do to solve that problem. So we had 3 essays. Everyone had to write 3 essays, primarily in English, because there are also other African countries whose lingua franca is not English. But to make sure that everyone on the program was able to interact properly, it was a 6-week academic residency, so it was quite intense. It was in English. And what I wrote about was, capacity building, capacity development for public service, right? So how do you get the public sector to be as efficient as the private sector? How do you build skill? How do you build capacity for public service so that we become very efficient? And, government work is not seen as just something you do when you don't have any other option. It's actually a prestigious career that you can pursue. And I wrote about that. And there were interviews in, I think, March of this year at the consulate, so all the consulate in all the different countries across Africa.
If you don't mind me interjecting, what was it you proposed as the solution?
So a couple of things. This is one of those grand challenges that does not have, there's no silver bullet for this. I think it's there's the policy side, where you talk about how do you make sure that the public service you build a meritocracy in the public service where people are rewarded for hard work and not just tenure. And there's something else around tailoring trainings and tailoring capacity building for the job. Not just doing random trainings just because it's time to do a training, but how do you make sure that people are, learning on the job, one. How do you build an apprenticeship model into the public service where you learn from, people that have stayed longer than you and they don't feel threatened by you? Because a lot of young people in the public service always say, it feels like the old guy doesn't want to let go. And how do you make sure that people have the opportunity to actually show that they're equipped? I think, those were part of the things that I had said is the way to go about it. There's a policy side and there's a practical side. I'm more about the practical side.
So in terms of implementing that idea or that initiative or what you proposed, is there any way of making sure that it is being implemented today in Nigeria?
I think it's not a one-person solution, right? And there are other people within the YALI contingent for Nigeria. There were 44 of us selected from Nigeria, and we had the second biggest delegation from any country in sub-Saharan Africa.
Which country had the
South
biggest?
Africa.
How could
they had
have more
45, just one person more. It doesn't really count.
Okay.
And I think we had we were the same, but then someone had to drop off at some point due to other personal obligations. But there's already a consortium of people who are focused on different things. So some of us are passionate about this, and we're already thinking about what projects we can do in a way that this actually moves. One person sitting in Lagos cannot effect this change. So it's about how do we build economies of scale? How do we get, you know, a critical mass of people to
That will
actually
help
push
with the
this?
momentum.
This forward. Let
So-
me ask Shola, how's was building capacity for public service?
Yeah.
What is it that you brought on the table before going for
Okay.
YALI?
I work with SMEs, small and medium scale enterprises, and my core area of expertise is area of marketing and sales. I've been doing this for the last 7 years. I have a unique product called EMP. I don't want to go into the details of that, you know, but EMP is a fantastic drug that I use for small businesses. And I would say that I've recorded massive success in this area where SMEs feel like, okay, how do I get to the market? How do I achieve positioning? How do I fine tune my product? How do I get my price right? Where do I sell? That's the place, and all the P's of marketing. Now, on the not-for-profit side, I'm an active member of the new Nigerian club. In fact, I remember my experience in YALI, everybody says, Mr. New Nigeria. You talk Nigeria, you speak Nigeria, you dream Nigeria, I wear Nigeria.
Yes, I can say it.
Yeah.
You have it.
And this is not because I just woke up one day and I said, no, Nigeria is my constituency. I'm not the president of Nigeria. But this passion came because while I was growing up, I always hear people complain about our leaders, and our leaders. So I kept on asking myself as a young man, who are the leaders? At some point, I even thought they were being bred somewhere. And then they now show up to oppress the people. That I'm being real here, you know. So I thought they were born separately to lead other people. Then as I grew a little bit older, I realized that if you have a group of people seated together, there are chances that majority of the people don't know what to do. Everybody, I call it the group effect or the group phenomenon. Everybody else is waiting for somebody to do something about the situation at hand. So I got to that point where if I'm in a group and I ask, what do we need to do? Okay, now, so for me, New Nigeria is about let's stand up and let's take responsibility from where we are. Don't let's wait for the government. I don't have control over what the government is going to do. Because I can curse Jonathan from now to next year. But that does not going to change, or that's not going to change his actions or his policies. But I can do something. So our riding motto is, rather than curse darkness, put on the light.
Okay. Now, let me come back to you, Kemi. Now, you said 6 weeks residency?
Yes,
And you said it is intense.
it was very
How
intense.
intense and what made it that intense?
Okay, so I think, you know, just to give some context, there are 3 aspects to the fellowship. The first part was the 6-week academic residency, and there were 500 of us in total, and there were 20 schools hosting, you know, the